Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at the 2007 remake of Halloween, written and directed by Rob Zombie. This is the first Rob Zombie film to appear on the Kill Count, and his movies are basically a subgenre unto themselves. Sexy, gory music videos with profane, low-class characters. That's fine when you're chilling with the Firefly family, but many Halloween fans were understandably concerned when Zombie was picked to remake the classic 1978 original. A sequel to Resurrection had been planned, but then tragedy struck. Mustafa Akkad, the grandfather of the Halloween franchise and the only person involved in all 8 of the films I've covered so far, was killed along with his daughter in a 2005 terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda in Jordan. Rest in peace and continued well wishes to their family. With Akkad gone and the series bogged down by various timelines and shitty films, Mustafa's son Malik took over and allowed a total reboot, putting Zombie in charge. He and John Carpenter told Zombie to make the movie his own. So he did, and that's why we got a Halloween featuring characters who are the human equivalent of a trailer park built on top of a dumpster. Zombie wanted to explore the backstory of Michael Myers, so the first half of this movie kind of functions as the Phantom Menace of the Halloween franchise, showing us a previously mysterious villain as an annoying little boy who probably peed the bed. The second half is just a straightforward remake, and it's where a lot of critics found fault since it's almost painfully faithful to the original. Finally, one last note here. There are 2 versions of this movie, the theatrical release and the director's cut, and you've probably seen the director's cut since it's more widely available on home media, but to keep things consistent, I'm gonna use the theatrical version for the kill count, then show you all the differences in another cut comparison. That sound fair? Whether you think so or not, let's get to the kills. The movie begins in a familiar town on a familiar holiday. Inside this unassuming home, a living dead girl, Deborah Myers, argues with her piggish boyfriend Ronnie, and right off the bat, their dialogue tells us, yep, we're in a Rob Zombie movie right now.
The whore with the big tits hanging down to her knees?
Maybe I'll choke the chicken, purge my snorkel all over them flappy ass tits.
Oof, but you know what? I don't want to be judgmental and assume that all the dialogue will sound like that. It's probably just a couple quick lines, right?
Bitch, I will crawl over there and I will skull fuck the shit out of you!
Hey, what? Yeah, these two are all sorts of dysfunctional, which is not a good living situation for Deborah's 3 kids. Little baby Angel, nicknamed Boo, is already crying up a storm here, and older sister Judith has to deal with disgusting sexual harassment from Ronnie. Yuck. Then there's younger brother Michael, who's starting his day wearing a clown mask and playing with his pet mouse Elvis. Oh, did I say playing with? I meant murdering with a scalpel, because this kid's an introductory course level psychopath. Rob Zombie's Halloween wants to do what Busta Rhymes pretended to do in Resurrection, that is, actually explore how Michael ended up the way he did. So we see him getting picked on at home by that piece of shit Ronnie, and bullied at school by this piece of shit spy kid. The bully, Wesley, shows Michael a picture of his mom's advertising materials, and that causes a bathroom fight to break out that Michael makes worse after the principal intervenes to stop it.
Fuck you.
Michael, that's the principal. He's your pal. Michael's continual problems in school cause a child psychologist to be brought in. One Samuel Loomis, now played by the world's greatest droog and penthouse emperor, Malcolm McDowell. He shows Deborah some things about Mikey she ain't gon' likey. Stuff like a dead cat he has in his backpack and pictures he was carrying around of dead dogs and cats. As Deborah grows more concerned, Michael takes a familiar music cue to get out of there.
Disturbed young man. I have to evaluate him.
He runs, if that's what you want to call it, down the hallway and retrieves the clown mask from his locker, then starts following Wesley on his walk home from school. In the woods, Michael attacks Wesley and knocks him down with a friggin' tree branch, which he then uses to beat the kid relentlessly. He gets the bully to the point of tears, but doesn't stop beating him, not even letting up when the dude tries to crawl away. After a few more heavy-sounding hits, Michael lifts his mask and looks down at the bloody-faced bully, who at this point is begging for his life. But I don't know if y'all remember this, Mikey here is a textbook case of antisocial personality disorder, so he takes that tree branch and finishes the job, beating Wesley to death with it. In this timeline, Michael's first ever murder is not his older sister in an emotionless act, but a school bully in a fit of rage. That night, while watching Thing from Another World, Ronnie continues to taunt his girlfriend's son like a jackass.
Judith is gonna be late!
God, this dude sucks. And to further ruin Michael's night, Judith is refusing to take him trick-or-treating, instead opting to stay at home and get it in with her boyfriend Steve. That leads into a weird montage that intercuts Michael crying on a curb with his mom Deborah stripping to Love Hurts by friggin' Nazareth. Hey, yeah, Rob Zombie, we know you're just trying to show off how hot your wife is, man. We get it. You both should be very proud. We get a pretty random origin story for the classic Michael Myers mask here. Instead of being stolen from the Halloween mask section at the local hardware store, the Captain Kirk visage is brought into Michael's world through Steve trying to give Judith a scare in bed. She's not very impressed. Why would this kid randomly whip out a mask in that moment?
Come on, babe, I want to do it with the mask on.
What? You're not not gonna be able to see anything and it's gonna smell like latex the whole time. But with the mask in the mix, you know the murder can't be far behind, and Michael continues to add to the kill count after taking a bunch of duct tape and using it to tie Ronnie to his lazy boy. Damn dude, how heavy a sleeper are you? I mean, I guess all the booze helps. In fact, Ronnie is so passed out, he doesn't actually wake up until Michael uses a chef's knife to slit his throat. It's simple in its brutality, and Michael is totally remorseless as he does it. Unlike the more emotional Wesley kill, this one truly feels like the origin kill for Michael Myers as we know him. Steve leaves Judith's room, the verdict's still out on whether or not he got to go to Clown Pound Town, and while he's making a post-coital sandwich for himself at the kitchen table, Michael comes from behind with a baseball bat and thwacks him on the head with it. Damn, Mikey, that dude didn't even really do anything to you. But Michael still kills him with repeated strikes from the bat as actor Adam Wiseman sells it with some great unsettling twitches. Maybe Judith's boyfriend in the original should be happy he's a Minuteman. It got him out of the Myers house before something like this could happen to him. Michael leaves his body on the floor as he heads towards the victim we know must come next, Sister Judith, who's listening to Don't Fear the Reaper on her headphones in an homage to that driving scene with Annie and Laurie from the original. Michael enters her room and trades out that juvenile clown mask for something more mature that he finds. It's a little big on you, kid, but don't worry, you'll grow into it. He gets weirdly pervy with his sister, which, you know, none of us really want to see, and when she realizes what he's doing, she yells at him and slaps him in the mask. That's when he takes the knife and stabs her in the stomach with it. It's a more drawn out kill than the one from the original, as Michael takes the knife out and gives his sister a chance to make it out into the hallway. Run, Judith, run! She slowly limps away with the ridiculous looking mini Mike stepping out and stalking her down the hallway as Carpenter's classic score plays. He catches up to her and uses his knife to slash her all to pieces until she finally succumbs to her wounds and dies on the hallway floor. Kind of funny how 23 minutes in, this movie is just now getting to the opening scene of the original. With everyone else dead, the only other living soul in the house is Baby Boo, who Michael spares with some holiday cheer.
Happy Halloween, Boo.
Aw, that's cute. Deborah gets home from work to find Michael sitting on the porch with the baby, but he refuses to respond to her when she asks him what's wrong, her only answer coming in the form of distant sirens growing louder. A stylized news report scene summarizes the victims and showcases Deborah's anguish, and the last shot on this fateful night shows that Michael's gonna be in a smidge of legal trouble. Smash cut to Smith's Grove 11 months later, Michael Myers has now been placed in the care of Dr. Sam Loomis. Their sessions together show that Michael claims not to recall the murders at all. In fact, he asks his mom during a visit if everyone at home is okay. So what, he's also dissociative now? Don't think about it. Here's a random Danny Trejo playing a friendly Smith's Grove staff member named Ismail, who has the same backstory as actual Danny Trejo.
I spent a little time behind walls.
Yes, he did. Time goes by, and we watch as Michael's emotional and mental well-being deteriorates during his confinement. He hides behind masks and screams about how he wants to go home, until eventually he stops talking entirely to both his mom and Dr. Loomis. A little while after the silent treatment settles in, he ends up killing a nurse played by Sybil Danning by taking a loose fork and stabbing her in the neck with it. The last couple shots we see of Nurse Wynn show her still moving and breathing, but the internet says this is a kill, so I'm not gonna take it away from Mikey. This murder ends up being the breaking point for Deborah Myers, as we see in the ensuing screaming match where the only thing we the audience hear is a persistent alarm siren. That night, she watches some home movies on a projector before taking out a handgun and shooting herself off screen. After the gunshot, we hear the wails of little baby Boo, who's now become an orphan, poor thing. This whole damn scene is really sad. We're finally getting out of the past and 15 years into the present. Ismail still works at Smith's Grove, but is 3 months away from retirement, which means he'll soon be passing the security baton over to new guards, like this abrasive dude, Noel.
What's the dick going on, Ishmael? What the fuck, man?
Michael Myers has grown into a mountain of a man played by former pro wrestler Tyler Mane, and Mane's physicality is one of the best parts of the Rob Zombie movies. I think everyone can agree that this Michael Myers is the most shit-your-pants terrifying of the series. Michael meets with Dr. Loomis, and since he still hasn't said a single word in 15 years, Loomis is being taken off of his case by the Smith's Grove higher-ups. That's fine with Sam, though, because this version of the good doctor is more interested in book tours and looking like Steve Jobs than hunting down the embodiment of evil. On the night of October 30th, Michael Myers is set to be transported to a different facility by a quad of guards that include horror icon Bill Moseley and Police Academy's Leslie Easterbrook. As they and the other guards lead the ogre-sized Michael through the facility, things go predictably wrong after Michael busts out of his chains using nothing but his own strength. The 4 guards get killed in quick succession during Michael's violent escape. First, Bill Moseley just gets punched to death, I guess, and the next dude gets his noggin crushed against the wall over and over again. Then there's one of those human shield, oops, I shot my friend type deals to kill the 3rd guard, and the last one, Leslie Easterbrook, is killed after Michael slams her against a wall and just yanks her throat out, leaving her to crumble to the floor and die on the ground. Sounds like a good time for our first Michael Myers head tilt. built, you can't have a Halloween without it. Ismail comes back to the hospital for some reason and calls out for a missing nurse named Gloria. He never sees her, bleeding out to death on the other side of a wall, apparently having had her throat ripped out as well. I guess that's a good way to kill someone when you don't have a knife yet. Ismail does, however, find another pair of cops dead in the hallway, so let's add them to the count too. I've noticed some other counts online not include these dudes, and maybe it's because they think they're part of the 4 guards that we just saw killed a minute ago. But look at these guys, they're new victims. At least I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, whatever. Michael comes up behind Ismail and gives him a festive spook, and the guard tries to save his own life by talking to Mikey like an old friend. But he overplays his hand when he tries to cuff Michael's wrists, because this newly freed psychopath grabs the craggly Mr. Cruz and tosses him around, even as Ismail tries to play the friendship card. Michael ends up dunking Ismail a bunch of times in a sink that turns dark red with his blood. But drowning is not the ultimate cause of death, because Ismail is left just alive enough to watch Michael take a TV off the wall and crush his head with it. Damn, Mikey, he was good to you. At a truck stop playing the best prog rock trio of all time, trucker Joe Grizzly, played by another vet of the genre, Ken Foray, stops for a fill-up and to check that he still has that bitchin' hairdo going on. Don't worry, Joe, you do. As he's looking at some porn on the toilet, Michael enters the bathroom and sticks his nasty feet under the stall door. This pupus interruptus naturally escalates into a situation calling for a knife, but when Joe opens the stall door, he gets attacked by Michael, who beats his hand relentlessly against the stall wall in a fantastically physical scene wherein neither actor used a stunt double, of frickin' course. Eventually, Michael disarms Joe and uses the knife to stab him twice in the gut, killing him. It's crazy to see someone tower over the 6'5" Ken Foray, but if you need proof that Michael's the same size, you get it when he steals the truck driver's clothes before he leaves. Again, don't drive trucks in Halloween. It's now 50 minutes into the movie, and we're finally getting to Haddonfield on Halloween Day so we can meet this universe's Laurie Strode. She's played very well by Scout Taylor-Compton, but she's not exactly the same uptight character as Jamie Lee Curtis's version.
Laurie! I'm sorry. Okay.
But like I mentioned in the intro, this movie's second half mostly apes the original, so in no time at all, Laurie's walking to school alongside little Tommy Doyle and dropping off keys at the old Myers house. Michael has already beaten her there, where he somehow knows to dig underneath the floorboards to find his murder mask from when he was a kid. I don't know what it was doing down there, but I will say that I like the nasty grungy mask in these Rob Zombie movies. It looks like it just belongs here, you know? At school, we get a welcome surprise with Danielle Harris playing Annie Brackett, Laurie's friend who was originally played by Nancy Loomis. Their other friend, Linda Vanderklok, is also back, and so is the amazing disappearing Michael Myers, who can vanish into thin air as soon as you take your eyes off him. Spectacular. Our walk down Remake Lane includes nods to original dialogue,
Totally wrapped.
as well as recreations of original scenes. Annie's dad is still the sheriff in this version, but all due respect to Charles Cyphers, we get an upgrade here since this Sheriff Brackett is played by the voice of Chucky himself, Brad fucking Dourif. Yes! Hell yes! At Smith's Grove, Loomis tells an ice cream man posing as a doctor that Michael must surely be headed for Haddonfield, then goes there himself, where a clown posing as a gravedigger takes him to Judith Myers' grave. They're dismayed to find that it's been decorated with a dead animal, which is a clear signal to Loomis. He knows how Mikey loves to kill animals, that bastard. Apparently, the abandoned Myers house is a hangout spot for Haddonfield high schoolers now, because Linda and her boyfriend Bob go there to bone, not noticing Michael on the balcony. I like that simple change. It makes more sense than fucking in Lindsay Wallace's parents' bed. Bob gets a cramp during sexy times that kills the mood, so he runs outside to get them some beer from the cooler in his van. Wait, this dude's got a cooler full of beer and a van? Man, he's so high school cool. He goes to ghost Bob it up, but unfortunately, the bit is cut short by Michael assaulting him out of nowhere. We all know where this is going. Michael lifts Bob up by the neck against the wall, and after choking him for a bit, takes out his patented kitchen knife. Once again, he uses it to stab through Bob and pin him to the wall, and once again, we're left wondering how we're supposed to believe that a kitchen knife went all the way through a human torso, deep enough into a wall to support his weight, and still shows some blade on the outside. How long are these knives? Upstairs, Linda rolls over to find herself in front row seats at the Ghost Bob show. Lucky, I love that show. Michael makes her get up out of the blankets for that beer, so that means we're gonna be watching a completely naked chick get murdered right now. He grabs her and chokes her to death with his bare hands, no phone cord needed, until her body slumps to the ground. Yeah, if you didn't notice, this movie landed on a track a little bit ago and has a real straightforward ride ahead. But at least the ride has a few fun supporting characters, like Laurie's parents Mason and Cynthia. Cynthia especially is a nice addition to the film, with a fun and vulnerable performance by kill count veteran Dee Wallace. Annie picks up Laurie from her house for their meeting at the Babysitters Club, and after they leave and Cynthia goes inside, Mason thinks about, oh shit, punch to the face, oh no! Aw man, Michael, you got here faster than I expected. I wanted to watch these two characters for a while, but too late for that, cause Michael kills Mason with some knife slashes off screen. He walks in and delivers the corpse to Mason's very shocked and very sudden widow. Michael then corners Cynthia against a wall and gets her screaming and slinking to the floor, and the next time we see her, she's crawling towards a phone. Michael stops her and ends her life with a pretty simple neck snap. Son of a bitch, that was not enough D. Wallace for me. The next stop on Michael's tour of original Halloween scenes is at Lindsay Wallace's house, where he stands behind her as she watches everyone's favorite movie in these movies, Thing from Another World. He follows Annie and Lindsay out of the house and watches as they walk down the sidewalk to Tommy Doyle's place, where he waits outside as Paul pulls up to pick up Annie. Before she leaves, Annie tells Laurie that she's been setting up a blind date for her with, wait, can you guess who?
Ben Tramer.
Yeah, Ben Tramer! And we all know his reputation as an absolutely explosive lover. You know, just a hunk of burning love. Loomis meets up with Sheriff Chucky to tell him and a bunch of giant purple spots on the screen that Michael Myers is in town and a dangerous man. But in his office, Brackett tells Loomis that he's read his book and he thinks he's a charlatan who's inflated the legend of Michael Myers to sell more copies. That all changes when Loomis says that Michael may be in town to hunt down his baby sister, which worries Brackett enough for him to ring-a-ding-ding the Strodes. They can't come to the phone right now because, well, you know, they're dead. And the unanswered call spurs Brackett into action. Back at Lindsay's house, Annie is making out with her boyfriend Paul as we all try to forget that we watched this actress when she was 12.
Oh, you wanna fuck me? Yeah?
You're so fucking hot.
You wanna fuck me?
Ah, man, that's weird. We don't have to watch them make out for too long, though, because Paul gets yanked back off of Annie and stabbed by Michael in the gut with his knife. It's a pretty quick death, and the dude is pretty much discarded, but at least he actually made it into this movie, unlike his counterpart in the original, who was only ever heard over the phone. So now we've got like the third topless victim for Michael the murder. Talk about becoming a stereotype. Annie tries to fight back with a kitchen knife, but gets socked to the ground by Michael, who then drags her off screen out of the hallway. While Annie's dealing with Michael, her dad is telling Loomis what happened with Michael's baby sister Boo. Brackett was the one called to Deborah Myers' house after her suicide, and he took the orphaned baby to an emergency room in a neighboring town. But 3 months later, his buddy Mason Strode adopted the baby. So yes, in this timeline, Laurie Strode is still Michael's younger sister, birth name Angel Myers. We watch baby Boo walk Lindsay Wallace back to her house because she's sick of pulling double duty here, and as soon as they turn on the lights, they find Paul's body with a pumpkin head and Annie crumpled up on the ground, all bloody and pale. She is still alive though, so Laurie sends Lindsay back to Tommy's house to hole up while she dials 911 for help. The call gets routed to Sheriff Brackett and Loomis, who change course and head for the Wallace house. But they'd better get there fast because Michael Myers has decided it's time for final girl festivities. Laurie breaks a glass door to get out of the house and starts screaming for help from the neighbors as she limps away from her murderous older brother. She gets back to Tommy's house and he lets her in, but Michael's knocking at the door. Do him a favor, let him in. Yeah. Laurie and the kids manage to hide as the Haddonfield PD gets to the house in record time. Wow, an effective police presence. That's kinda cool. Only maybe effective was a bit of an overstatement, since in no time at all, this first cop, Officer Laurie, gets slammed against the door and stabbed in the back by Michael, his corpse leaving some red waterfall art on the window as it slides down. The second cop, Deputy Charles, actually lands a shot on Michael's shoulder, but then he too is quickly disposed of with a few stabs from Michael and his knife. I see that this Michael is going for quantity over quality when it comes to his kills. I mean, that's one way to do it. Michael grabs Laurie and hauls her away from the kids, then somehow knocks her out because the next time we see him, he's carrying her body down the street as sirens wail in the distance. Those sirens belong to Sheriff Brackett and Dr. Loomis, and they arrive at Lindsay Wallace's house to find Annie still breathing on the floor. The sheriff stays with his daughter as an ambulance arrives to help her, while Loomis finds out where Michael went from the kids and runs off into the night to confront him. Laurie wakes up in a dirt floor basement where the naked body of her friend Linda is lying in front of Judith Myers' tombstone. Michael shows up with a knife in hand and walks towards Laurie slowly as she sobs and begs him not to hurt her. Come on, Laurie, has that ever worked? Oh, he dropped the knife, and now he's taking out a picture? Yes, Michael, that is the two of you together. Family, good. No kill family. But Laurie doesn't fully comprehend what's going on here, even after she takes the picture from him and he takes off his mask to reveal his Andrew WK on steroids look. So she crawls over to the knife and swiftly stabs her kidnapper in the shoulder with it, taking him down. She starts to make her way out of this place as Michael sits up, takes the knife out of his shoulder, and remasks himself. Family bad? She manages to get out of the building building right as he gets going again, but a tumble into an empty pool leaves her trapped when Michael comes around. And guess what, Laurie? Ain't no lifeguard on duty tonight. Actually, wait a minute. Dr. Loomis is here to save the day with a flotation device, or gun. He takes out a gun and shoots Michael with it. In fact, he shoots him 1, 2, 3 times, and that gets Michael to the ground? What is that shit? I was expecting twice as many shots. Loomis skims Laurie out of the pool, and the two of them leave Michael face down in a pile of leaves. Surely that must be the end of this movie, right? I mean, hell, we've even got the same final lines from the original.
Was that the boogeyman?
I do believe it was.
Oh, just kidding. I guess there's a hidden track on this Rob Zombie album, cause we still going in this bitch. Michael takes Laurie as a hostage while Loomis begs him to let her go. It works better than expected, and Michael lets Laurie go to attack Loomis. The doctor gets his eyes gouged in pretty friggin' deep there, which knocks him out. Eventually, Laurie makes her way back to where Loomis fell so she can grab the gun that he dropped, and to make a long chase scene short, she winds up in the attic. After hearing her above him, Michael tries to fish her out of there by busting up the ceiling. He never lands a direct hit on her, but she eventually falls out of the attic through the ceiling on her own. Right as she stands up and woozily aims her gun, Michael charges at her and knocks her through a wall and a balcony straight into a smash cut to black. And fun fact, stunt coordinator Ron Hutchinson actually told me that this was the most difficult stunt to pull off out of both Rob Zombie movies. We come back up on the siblings lying in a bloody heap on top of each other. Laurie reaches over to get the gun and then straddles herself on top of her enormously big brother to finally put him down. The movie ends with him grabbing her hand right as she fires the gun into his head, and Laurie screams herself silly as police sirens draw nearer. Did this remake wind up with the same number of kills as the original? You already know the answer is hell nah, but let's get to the numbers anyway. Look at me, I'm Deborah Myers. I'm a sexy dancer. Right? Right? "22 people died in Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. The victims included 15 men and 7 women, giving us a more than 2-to-1 dead dude ratio. And with a runtime of 110 minutes, we wound up with a kill on average every 5 minutes flat. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Joe Grizzly. It's not so much the final 2 stabs that win the award, but rather the crazy raw fight that these 2 behemoths have before that. Apparently they wrecked a real bathroom with their own bodies, like that stall wall wasn't a fake one or anything. It's a real intense scene, and you gotta love Ken 4A being a part of it. Doll Machete for lamest kill will go to Cynthia Strode, who got a simple neck snap. That is no way to treat America's mom from the 80s, Michael. And that's it. Halloween 2007 made a lot of money, and the producers eventually convinced Rob Zombie to make a sequel, even though he really didn't want to. We'll take a look at his Halloween 2 next week, but until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been The Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching this week's Kill Count. I want to thank a couple of patrons like Noah Anderson, John Carr, Ozzy Hernandez, and Philip King. You may have noticed that my mask has a whole bunch of writing all over it. I'll release a video soon showing what happened, but I actually went to the Halloween 40 convention and got signatures from all the Michael Myers actors. There are 11 signatures there from 11 of the dudes who played Michael Myers. Alright, thanks everyone, be good people.